Hi, I'm Debbie from the Sterling Heights Public Library. Today I'm going to be talking about robins and their nests. This is the time of year around here where you're going to see a lot of robins hopping around on your lawn, and they're getting ready to make their nests. And so you might have some nests in your yard, which is something to me that I always get excited about. I like seeing bird nests and seeing how the chicks develop and all that. And so if you're interested in learning about that, I'm going to tell you that process. This is their actual name is American robins, because in England there's another bird that's called a robin that looks a little different. Robins are found all over the United States, but they're the state bird of Michigan. So you'll see them on some official Michigan things. This is what a robin looks like. If you're new to the area, new to the country, you might not know that already, but probably anybody who lives around here knows. They're about 10 inches long. They have that distinctive red breast, and they have a black head. The males have a darker black head and a brighter red breast, and the females are a little duller colored. But they're about the same size, and they have distinctive light blue eggs. So there are a few other birds that I learned about that have blue eggs too, but most of them around here, if you find a blue egg, it's usually from a robin. Their diet, they eat earthworms and grubs and bugs. So you won't find robins at a bird feeder eating seeds. They don't eat that kind of food. So they hop around your lawn and they look for worms and things that are in your lawn mostly. And you'll see them, and they tip their head to the side and they kind of look like they're listening for something. But I read that they're actually looking for movement in the grass, because their eyes are on the sides of their heads, so they see the ground better if they tip their head over to the side. They are considered a migratory bird because they usually go south for the winter. Sometimes they don't. If they can find enough food around, in the winter, if they stick around, they look for berries and fruit that's left on trees and shrubs. And if whatever area they're in has enough of that to sustain them, they may stay for the winter, but usually they leave. So they are considered a migratory bird. So usually they're here from late March until November. They sleep in the trees, like on a branch or something. And they just sit in the branches. When they show pictures of bird nests with birds sitting in them, that's not their house. They're not sleeping in those nests. Bird nests are just for raising the babies. And most of the time while they're raising the babies, the parent isn't even in the nest. So they mate from April through July, which that's what they're doing now. And they don't mate for life, so different years they'll have different partners. Then they start building nests. And the nests they build in coniferous trees, which are like pine trees or shrubs, and also in deciduous trees, which is the kind where the leaves fall off. So they'll be in either type of thing like that. They'll also sometimes build onto light fixtures, like porch lights, other kinds of lights that you might have in your yard on a pole or something. For some reason they like that. They're often around the right height that the robins seem to like. So when they build their nest, it's like a sturdy cup-shaped nest that they make out of grass and pieces of bark and moss and hair. And they cement it with mud, so that's formed out of mud mostly, and they form the inside of the bowl with their chest, so they kind of nudge themselves around in the bowl of the nest to make the shape of the nest. So sometimes you might see a robin out there that it's kind of muddy in the front, and that's probably one that's recently been working on building a nest. It usually takes them about 2 to 6 days to build a nest. And then after they build the nest, after the nest is completed, then within a day or so, then they'll start laying eggs. The female lays 1 egg a day, kind of like a chicken would. And they usually will lay 3 or 4 eggs in a brood. So they lay them consecutively. But they don't start sitting on the nest to incubate them until after the last egg has been laid. So, a few days and they start sitting on the nest. They sit on the nest for between 11 and 16 days. And during that time, they usually only leave the nest for maybe 10 minutes out of an hour every day just to find food for themselves. So they do that, and then the eggs start hatching. And they will hatch like 1 per day in the order that they were laid. So the first egg that was laid is the first one that will hatch. I'll show some pictures. Okay, this is what the eggs look like, the blue color. It's very distinctive. And there's like a paint color that they call robin's egg blue because that's the color that always is. This is when they start hatching. This is 1 egg that has not hatched yet, and then the first chick that has hatched. So when they first start to hatch, they're naked. They don't really have any feathers, but this is how they look. So here's an egg that hasn't hatched. Here's a newly hatched one. And this is its mouth open, aiming up. So if ever you find a nest with baby birds in it, usually what you're going to see are their open mouths pointing up because they're expecting to be fed. So with this bright yellow beak, so that's where the food goes down in there. And there's all this little fuzz on it. It looks kind of furry almost. So they have that for a few days. That's how they look. Then they're called a nestling or a chick. And, their eyes aren't developed yet. They're not open. They're just a bump. But they do learn their parents' voices by that time, and they can tell when their parent comes to the nest. And as soon as they feel that vibration of their parent landing by the nest, then they all jump up and start opening their mouths to be fed. Other than that, their instinct tells them to sit very still to protect themselves from predators. So their parents come to feed them, both parents, the mother and the father, male and female. For the first few days, they feed them regurgitated food, like worms and that the parents have eaten. And they, spit it into the baby's mouth. And then a few days later, by 5 days old, they're getting small pieces of worms. Both parents feed them. They can visit them 100 times a day to feed them. So it's a big job feeding those little birds. They grow really fast. And within 2 weeks almost, they're almost the size of the parents already. So the parents sleep at the nest, or the mother, the first few days while they're still really small and really need protecting. Then as they're getting bigger, there's not really room for the mother anymore, and the mother will sleep on a branch nearby. And they never are in that same nest again, the mother. Okay, here's a picture of a baby in its fledgling stage. Fledgling is when they jump from the nest to learn to fly. They're kind of rough looking, and they've developed their feathers and everything. They have this speckled area on their front, which an adult doesn't have, this speckled thing. So if you find birds that are running around in your yard that look like this with the speckles, it's probably, it's a young bird. It's not an adult. So that when they're about 13 days old, they jump out of the nest. And it's a really dangerous time for them because they're very vulnerable to predators. They run around and on the ground, and they might be able to jump onto low branches of shrubs and that, but they're they need time and safe places to practice flying. So they'll do that for a number of days or a week even, or more than that, like 10 to 15 days after they first jump out of the nest before they're a decent flyer. And once they're a decent flyer, they're independent. The parent doesn't help them anymore. It doesn't help them find food. They're on their own. They're only 25% of the babies survive the first year. So that's kind of rough. They do live 2 years average lifespan of a robin. I'm going to show a video that I took at my house a few years ago of a nest. We've had a lot of robin nests at our house here over the years. They like our hedge that we have. We had some shrubs that they like to build nests in. And they're very tolerant of people. Robins are known for being pretty tolerant, that they don't mind you coming around and looking at them. You shouldn't really touch them, but looking, they're okay. So here's a little video of what the babies look like, and you'll see all their little beaks popping up. The birds will learn to fly after that time period, and then that brood is completed. Sometimes the mother will do a few other broods that year, to start the process over and lay eggs again. The first brood usually has about 4 eggs in it. The successive broods through the year will have fewer eggs. So maybe if they do it again, it'll be 3 eggs. The third time it might be 2 eggs. But that's as many as they usually will do. So the thing you have to remember is, because they're migratory birds, they're affected by the Migratory Bird Act, which is a federal law for conservation of birds, which means that you cannot destroy the nest or the birds, the babies of a bird that's considered a migratory bird. So if you find a nest that's on your property that's actively in use, that there are eggs in or that there are babies in, you can't destroy it. Moving it doesn't really work either. The parent won't continue taking care of it usually if it's been moved. What you can do, if you really aren't into having bird nests on your property, is when you see them start to be built, you'll see little pieces of grass and stuff around laying where they're trying to build it. You have to catch it right in the beginning and keep it from being built. Take down the few pieces that you see there. But once it's completed, you have to let it go and be there. The whole process of having the nests, and by the time the birds are gone, only can take between a month and 45 days. So if that's a time period that you can tolerate having the little bird family with you, I think it's a really nice thing. It teaches, and it's good for kids, to teach respect for wildlife and to learn the process of how the eggs grow. And it's just entertaining. I mean, to me it is. I'm fascinated by seeing the birds develop and that whole process. I suppose if you have birds in your yard of any kind or any kind of animals, and you have questions about what to do with them or what how to take care of, maybe something seems like it's been abandoned but you're not sure, you could call like the Sterling Heights Nature Center, and they can probably try to help you answer some questions or give you some advice about that. So that's what I have to say about the birds. There's a little rundown again, a little summary. The eggs and having them just hatched, and these are the nestlings and the fledgling when they first jump out and are learning to fly, and then the adult. So watch your yards and you might see some activity going on. If you see a shrub or something that a robin keeps repeatedly flying into a certain spot, there's a good chance that there's a nest going on in there. And take a look and be careful. All right, okay, have fun, bye.